Most people walk into life believing that loyalty is a natural currency, that friendship is a shield, and that the more open and generous they are, the more that generosity will return. But the truth is far less poetic. In the game of power, in the real world, where incentives shape behavior far more than affection does, you quickly learn that almost every connection you think you have is conditional. Some people orbit you, and not because they like you, but because they like the light you give off. Others smile because they need something that your presence, your skills, or your reputation can provide. They may call you brother, family, partner, or friend, but beneath those warm words are calculations, small, subtle, usually invisible, until you start saying no. And the moment you stop being convenient, the moment your boundaries interrupt their comfort, that is when their real nature steps forward. It is not cynicism to see this. It is accuracy. If you fail to recognize motives early, you become a pawn in someone else's script. Outsmarting fake friends is not about bitterness. It is about survival. It is learning to read people before they rewrite your life in a direction you never consented to. And to do that, you must train yourself to observe patterns with cold clarity, the same way a strategist studies battlefield positions. People show you who they are in the small cracks between their words and their behavior. They show it in how they talk about people who aren't in the room. They show it in how they handle your boundaries, in how they react when you make a request that inconveniences them, in how they justify their failures while secretly resenting your progress. Their inconsistencies are breadcrumbs, and if you follow them long enough, you will see the full map of their intent. Fake friends speak in a language designed to blur accountability. They speak in soft generalities when confronted, but turn sharp and specific when criticizing you. They use phrases that sound empathetic, but are engineered to push responsibility back onto your shoulders. They flatter you when they want access, and criticize you quietly when you no longer offer free benefit. Their loyalty is performative. Their support evaporates as soon as your success threatens their position. Envy often dresses itself in the robes of concern. People call you difficult when you stop being easy to use. They call you arrogant when you stop letting them rearrange your time. They call you ungrateful when you stop giving discounts on your dignity. But once you learn to see these emotional manipulations as strategies instead of personal attacks, you reclaim your clarity. You stop taking their behavior as commentary on your worth, and you start treating it as data. And data, unlike emotion, cannot lie. You learn to test people the way a jeweler tests a stone. Pressure from different angles, illumination from different sources. Say no once and watch how they transform. Delay a reply and see how quickly they weaponize guilt. Ask them to put something in writing and observe how their enthusiasm collapses. When someone is your friend only when it costs them nothing, they were never your friend at all. People reveal the truth in their reaction to your boundaries. Genuine allies adjust. Counterfeit ones accuse. The moment you stop feeding their convenience, you expose their dependence. And this is why you must build an internal system of clarity. 30 days is all it takes to expose the architecture of a relationship. Observe what they ask for, what they give without being prompted, and what they conveniently forget. Compare their words to their outcomes. Intentions are pretty, but outcomes are invoices. The unspoken truth is that some relationships are not connections. They're pipelines designed to extract your energy, your time, your creativity, your peace. Once you recognize you are being treated like a resource instead of a person, Your responsibility is to shut down the pipeline. Not with drama, not with confrontation, but with policy. You do not need to yell when you have rules. Replace spontaneity with structure. Replace unwritten favors with written agreements. Replace assumed closeness with earned access. This is not coldness. Coldness is the climate where parasites cannot survive. The signs become sharp once you sharpen your perception. People who belittle you in jokes, but call you sensitive when you push back. People who exaggerate their contributions and minimize yours. People who love the version of you that is struggling but resent the version of you that is rising. People who tell you that you are overreacting whenever your boundaries interfere with their habits. These are not misunderstandings. They are strategies meant to keep you small enough to use. And the moment you understand that, you stop explaining yourself. Explanations are nutritional snacks for manipulators. They use them to study your weaknesses, your fears, your insecurities. Silence is your shield. Clarity is your sword. Eventually, you reach a point where you must replace emotional generosity with strategic generosity. You can still be warm, but you cannot be unguarded. You can still give love, but you cannot give leverage. You can still show kindness, but you cannot offer yourself as an altar for other people's ego to sacrifice your peace on. If someone repeatedly treats your help as an entitlement, your boundary should be the end of that entitlement. If someone speaks to you in fog, respond only in structure. If someone benefits from your confusion, starve the confusion by slowing everything down. Do not rush decisions because someone else is panicking. Urgency is the costume manipulation wears to seem important. To keep your heart alive while strengthening your spine, ground your clarity in principle rather than bitterness. You do not need to become harsh. You need to become consistent. Praise when it is deserved. Correct privately and calmly. Document agreements. Walk away early when patterns show you that someone refuses accountability. Forgive to free yourself, not to reopen the door. Reopening is earned only through evidence, not emotion. You can be gentle and still be a fortress. You can be compassionate and still require terms. You can be loving and still refuse exploitation. The people worthy of your life will adapt to your clarity. Those who are feeding on your confusion will fall away. You must run drills on yourself because emotional discipline does not grow by accident. Practice silence after difficult questions. Let the other person's response reveal their motives. Practice reducing your availability for 2 weeks and watch who grows irritated. Absence exposes entitlement faster than presence. Practice translating vague accusations into specific requests for evidence. When the evidence evaporates, so does the manipulator's power. Your cravings, your need for validation, belonging, shortcuts, are pressure points. Fake friends will push them to steer you. But once you stop needing to be liked, once you stop needing to be understood by everyone, you become unreadable. And unreadable people are unplayable. Build policies that make exploitation expensive. Never keep sensitive plans in shared spaces. Never allow meetings without purpose. Never give favors without clear terms. Never take criticism from unnamed sources. Never let someone use affection as a discount code for your time. And most importantly, understand that leaving is one of the strongest sentences a person can speak. Not a loud exit, but a clean one, quiet, documented, and irreversible. You do not stay where respect is conditional. You do not negotiate with patterns. You do not wait for someone's potential to finally mature. You leave, and the cost of staying is paid with your self-worth. Loneliness is not the consequence of losing fake friends. Peace is. sovereignty is. The ability to design a life that is guided by standards instead of fears is. You must choose yourself with the same loyalty you use to give others. And once you do, something extraordinary happens. Your life becomes governed by incentives instead of manipulation. People who respect you gravitate closer. People who cannot exploit you drift away. That is not loss. It is filtration. As you rise, you will see more strategies disguised as sincerity. People will flatter you to dull your edge. They will question your character to hide their jealousy. They will distort your words to escape accountability. They will turn your reluctance into betrayal, your boundaries into cruelty, your growth into arrogance. But the truth is simple. You are no longer edible. You have policies instead of excuses. You have discipline instead of desperation. You have a future self you refuse to betray. And that makes you powerful. In the end, the greatest alliance you will ever build is the one you build with your own future. The version of you that needs protection. The version of you counting on your clarity. The version of you building a life bigger than the noise of the present. You are not becoming cruel. You are becoming accurate. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming sovereign. You are not losing people. You are losing liabilities. And when you stand there, alone, perhaps, but never lonely, you will realize that the only people you truly lost were the ones who had nothing to offer except the illusion of loyalty. In that quiet, you will finally understand the rule that protects every empire, every legacy, every life built with intention. Do not let anyone close enough to confuse your kindness for weakness or your silence for surrender. Guard your time, guard your craft, guard your mind, and watch how quickly the world stops being able to play you. There comes a stage in your life where you start noticing patterns you used to ignore. You begin to see that every conflict, every betrayal, every disappointment you've endured was a lesson written in a language you weren't fluent in yet. But now, as your awareness sharpens, those lessons come alive. You start realizing that most of the pain you tolerated was the cost of not knowing how to read people. You believed words over behavior. You trusted effort over consistency. You accepted apologies instead of analyzing patterns. But now that you know better, the world takes on a new shape. You realize that fake friends don't just damage you by what they do, they damage you by what they prevent you from becoming. They waste your time, drain your focus, lower your standards, distract your ambition, and keep you stuck in emotional contracts you never consciously signed. Breaking free from them is not just an act of defense, it is an act of evolution. The moment you stop giving easy access to your time, your energy, and your inner world, you will watch people drop off like leaves in winter. Not because you have changed into someone cruel, but because the version of you that tolerated exploitation no longer exists. Without access to your kindness on demand, without the ability to guilt you into compliance, without the power to predict your reactions, they suddenly lose their leverage. And when someone loses leverage, their true loyalty is exposed. Real loyalty remains. Performative loyalty dissolves. That dissolution is necessary. You cannot ascend while carrying the weight of people who fear your growth more than they value your presence. Most people want you to grow, just not beyond their control. They want you to succeed, but not in ways that make them confront their own comfort. They want you to improve, as long as your improvement still benefits them. That is why you must learn to be ruthless with your access. Not ruthless in cruelty, but ruthless in filtration. You must understand that access to your life is a privilege, not a default setting. When people treat you like an option, treat your absence like a verdict. When people treat you like an emotional vending machine, shut down the machine. When people assume that your forgiveness is endless, let them feel the silence that follows the last straw they thought you'd never enforce. The truth is, most of the manipulation you faced only worked because you cared too much about maintaining harmony. Fake friends survive on your conflict avoidance. They build their comfort on your discomfort. But when you begin speaking the language of boundaries instead of emotional explanations, the game shifts. Fake friends do not know how to navigate structure. They thrive in vagueness, in blurred lines, in unspoken assumptions. They thrive when everything is emotional and nothing is documented. They thrive when you respond instantly, when you bend without being asked, when you feel guilty for saying no. But once you decide that your life will operate on clarity instead of chaos, you remove their oxygen. They suffocate in the clean air of accountability. You must be intentional now. You must design a new version of yourself that lives by internal laws. You must not allow pressure, guilt, or flattery to rewrite those laws. Your respect cannot be purchased with apologies. Your loyalty cannot be accessed with nostalgia. Your boundaries cannot be negotiated through emotional theatrics. You've outgrown that version of yourself who believed everyone had the same heart. Now you understand that people often borrow your kindness to build the weapon they later aim at you. And strangely enough, the moment you evolve, the world begins testing you. It watches to see whether your new discipline is temporary or permanent. People who benefited from your old softness will return to test your resolve. They will come dressed in old affection, old promises, old memories. They will pretend nothing happened. They will pretend they don't remember the hurt they caused, or the nights they left you unheard, or the moments they needed you to be small so they could feel tall. But this time, you won't return to that version of yourself who believed their presence was worth more than your peace. You will analyze their consistency, not their charm, their effort, not their excuses, their patterns, not their performance. The old you healed people by sacrificing pieces of yourself. The new you heals by stepping back and letting people face the consequences of their own choices. This shift is not cruelty, it is maturity. You cannot save people who benefit from their own dysfunction. You cannot uplift those who resent your elevation. You cannot guide those who interpret accountability as attack. Some people do not want healing. They want handlers. They want caretakers for their chaos. You were once that caretaker. Not anymore. Understand this deeply. Fake friends don't always betray you loudly. Sometimes betrayal is quiet. Subtle withdrawals of support, small shifts in tone, passive-aggressive comments disguised as humor, sudden neutrality when you succeed, suspicious enthusiasm when you fail. They won't always stab you in the back. Sometimes they simply stop clapping. Silence becomes their weapon. Indifference becomes their signal. The absence of support becomes the evidence you didn't want to accept. Most betrayals are not dramatic. They're incremental. They happen slowly, the same way erosion destroys a mountain. But your new clarity allows you to see erosion as soon as it starts. You won't wait for the mountain to crumble. You'll walk away at the first crack. You'll leave before the collapse. You'll protect your internal landscape before an external one ruins it. That is what evolution looks like. And with this evolution comes a new form of solitude, one that is not empty, but empowering. Solitude becomes your strategy, not your punishment. You begin to value your own company, not because you reject the world, but because you refuse to water dead plants. You refuse to pour loyalty into bottomless cups. You refuse to trade your authenticity for acceptance. And this solitude builds something fake friendships could never offer. A spine. A spine built from self-respect. A spine built from boundaries. A spine built from the long overdue realization that peace is more valuable than proximity. And here is the twist. When you detach from fake friends, the universe introduces you to real ones. People who love you without needing to use you. People who respect your boundaries instead of resenting them. People who feel inspired by your growth, not threatened by it. People who tell you the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, because they care more about your character than your comfort. These people rarely arrive until you remove the ones blocking the door. And when these genuine souls enter your life, you learn something profound. Loyalty is not loud. Loyalty is consistent. Loyalty is shown in small gestures, not grand speeches. It is proven through presence, not promises. Loyalty shows up. Loyalty stays when others scatter. Loyalty grows when tested. Loyalty doesn't treat you like a temporary convenience. Loyalty sees you as a long-term investment. But to experience this kind of loyalty, you must first earn it from yourself. You must be loyal to your progress, loyal to your boundaries, loyal to your evolution, even when it costs you people you once thought you needed. You must decide that your peace is the non-negotiable currency of your life. And anyone who demands you break yourself to maintain them is walking out of your future. Eventually, you will look back and realize that removing fake friends did not make your world smaller. It made your world cleaner. It made your path clearer. It made you sharper, wiser, calmer. It rebuilt your identity on strength instead of attachment. And that transformation will terrify those who thrived in the older version of you. But it will inspire those destined to walk with the future version of you. Because the truth is simple. You were never meant to be used as a stepping stone for people lacking self-awareness. You were meant to rise with those who rise with you, to build with those who understand the weight of loyalty, to walk with those who match your integrity. Fake friends fear that world because they cannot exist in it. Real ones thrive there. And now, so will you.